Well, good morning and welcome once again to Rising. We have a great show for you today. It is Wednesday morning, although all morning I was thinking it was Thursday. This is a very slow-moving, glacially moving week.
That was me last week. I was going to say we matched today.
You had some
I had some difficulties this morning.
You spilled coffee.
I spilled coffee all
on
over my
the
dress.
train.
Luckily, it's dark. I had a nosebleed. It's because of my allergies. I'm using too much Flonase.
We're fighting.
We're
to
fighting
be
for
here
our
every
lives.
day, fighting for you, the viewers.
And the weather, it's actually decent today, and it's going to hopefully get warmer so I don't have to suffer anymore.
I am just heartbroken that my girl, Princess Jasmine, will not be taking
What? They're still counting the ballots in Dallas. Are you nuts? They're still counting.
It's over.
We're going to talk about that. Coming up on Rising, Senator Richard Blumenthal told reporters that he fears the U.S. may be putting boots on the ground in Iran.
Plus, Texas State Representative James Tallarico defeated Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. Did you hear that, Lindsay?
Jasmine Crockett still wants those Dallas
Oh, my
ballots
goodness.
counted.
In the Democratic primary for U.S. Senate.
And CBS is reporting that the DOJ is removing Epstein files that were previously made public, but the DOJ argues that their analysis is flawed. But first, Robby, what is on your radar today?
Alrighty, well, the Trump administration continues to try to sell the American people an Israeli-led U.S. strikes on Iran that have killed the Ayatollah and dozens of other high-ranking government figures, bringing a murderous and extremist regime to its knees. But some questions still remain for us, and the administration has a duty to provide answers. President Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, Pete Hegseth, Marco Rubio, Speaker Johnson have all offered different and, at times, frankly, conflicting justifications for this war. Now, patriotic conservative Americans, MAGA, America First, whatever you want to call Trump supporters, look, there's a great deal of agreement that the Ayatollah is evil and deserved to die, and that the world will be well rid of a regime that hates America and also hates Israel. I'm following so far, but there are questions, even among the MAGA faithful, about whether this strike is in America's best interests. Now, the Daily Wire's Matt Walsh, for instance, is a leading conservative pundit and Trump supporter who's not yet sold. He's been posting on X a lot about this, even drawing a response from White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. He writes, "I supported the Venezuela operation and I'm on board with acquiring Greenland because they both passed the only litmus test I care about. Will it be a net benefit to the United States? Venezuela and Greenland are low risk, high reward, big wins for our people. We gain much and lose little or nothing. Easy call, as far as I'm concerned. I'm not actually an isolationist. I'm just an America First conservative in the strictest sense of the term. Does the benefit for America outweigh the cost? It must, or it's a bad policy. That's one of my absolute core political principles, always has been. But with this Iran thing, I don't see how the math works in our favor, or at least it seems highly unlikely it will work in our favor. And so I'm against it. If that puts me at odds with the administration and with much of the conservative commentariat, so be it, but I have to stick with what I believe." My take, he's got a point. Now, Trump can overcome this, but he has to actually explain what we're doing. So let's walk through it. Is this about crippling Iran's nuclear capabilities? If so, well, I thought we just did that several months ago. Did we need to decapitate the regime and blow up a school full of children to accomplish it? Or is it about regime change? If so, why does the administration keep denying that it's a regime change war? Is it just because that term in particular is so unpopular with the American people? But that is the goal? If so, that's rank dishonesty. Is it about our defense? Or is it about Israel's defense? This seems like the most actually likely explanation, but if it's just about a pressing threat to Israel and not the U.S., then surely Trump should be asking Congress to vote to approve military action. The president can act unilaterally only when the U.S. is threatened, not when some other country is threatened. Then there are questions about the duration of this conflict. Are we in it until the regime falls? Until there's new leadership we can work with? Until there's a deal in place? Until Israel says so? Are we committing ground troops? How many American servicemen are expected to die in retaliatory strikes across the globe? Should we really expect no reaction from Iranian proxy groups? From China? The administration is going to need to come up with better answers to these questions because the American people do not want us to get involved in another endless war in the Middle East for good reason. Trump ran on no new wars. Things change, but this is a new war. If he wants it, he's got to sell it, particularly to his millennial supporters who have a permanent Iraq war fatigue. I was looking at polling numbers, approval of this strike. Lowest group is people in our age range because we remember Iraq most accurately. Look, again, I've said this with so many of the military interventions Trump has undertaken this term. I am prepared to be sold. I'm not unreasonable. I also want totalitarian regimes to fall all around the globe. So sell me that this is a good idea. Sell Congress, really, is what should be happening. That's not happening. Sell me, and I'm hearing way too many different and conflicting justifications. Like, Israel was going to be attacked because they were fighting with Iran, and so we had to do something, is very different from we're trying to stop them from getting a nuke, which we hear constantly, and that did that require killing everyone in leadership there? And we would like to see a different regime take over. I saw Trump say yesterday, like, worst case scenario, people just as bad take over after this. And I'm sorry, but that is not the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario is we start world war. It's like Russia or China do retaliatory nuking of us. That's the worst case scenario. Or a madman comes to power who, sends an army after Israel or something. Like, there are worst case scenarios. Are they likely? No. Maybe the Trump administration knows they're impossible, actually. But I can certainly think of worse outcomes than this. And if he thinks the worst outcome is basically this is all for naught and it's just as bad, well, okay, that's not exactly selling me on it either.
So you and I, for the audience, we do a hit on News Nation on Wednesdays, and so ours was canceled this morning because Hegseth was speaking. So I listened to Hegseth, his presser, and speaking of China and Russia, what I took away from that was that there's no intention to try to even say things that would agitate China or Russia in this moment, because a reporter asked, do you have anything to say about China and Russia being the biggest supporters of Iran being armed in this way? And they were like, our problems with Iran. So I totally get that strategically, but also when you say about expanding into a bigger conflict, America understands all three of these powers and why we wouldn't want to go that far, and why they wouldn't want to go that far. I think what I also got from that presser was that this war is nowhere near over. One thing that stuck with me is Hegseth saying this will be done when America decides it's over. And without a clear path of why it started, we're not understanding why it needs to last this long. There's also this extra layer of having a bunch of colleagues that are in the travel space, because that's another thing that I do, that are in these Middle Eastern countries, and there was no exit strategy. There are people that were given the State Department number that are calling to find out there's nothing that they can do. Mm-hmm. And I'm watching that happen to so many people that I see working, just trying to bridge the gap between cultures, that are over there trying to get back to the US. And you would think that no one needs a forewarning that you're going to attack Iran, but at least you think you would have coordinated to have an exit strategy for some of these Americans that are in several places across the Middle East that would like to get home, that you're seeing in a hysterical state right now, not understanding what's going on. Right now we have 50,000 troops and more than 200 aircraft in Iran, and some people are not calling this a war. And I think that we need to come to terms that we have started an endless war because we're not given a date. We're getting a lot of pushback that they don't have to give a date, they don't have to give exacts. But like you said, if we're watching graves being built for more than 100 kids that were killed at a school, we need to understand that, and that was asked about in the presser too, and they said they're investigating it. And the reporter pushed back that from Saturday until now, there's no understanding of whether that was a clear target or an accident that we can respond to. And so I think there's so much confusion, that being one of the biggest things for me. Nothing wrong with taking out a dictator and authoritarian that was killing civilians, but there is a whole other layer of now being engaged in this conflict where we're watching innocent people being killed with no clear understanding of what capabilities were there, when obviously the nuclear capabilities were obliterated last summer. So there was no imminent threat. But now we're understanding that Israel had a plan to attack Iran to protect themselves, and Iran might have struck back, and that's why the U.S. felt like they needed to get involved. And so, there's a lot of conversation around what that means for the future of how we figure out international conflict, if it has to do with what other countries want to do.
Up next, we will continue discussing the latest developments with Iran, including remarks given by Pete Hegseth that we were just alluding to earlier this morning. We'll be right back with more details.